Hello, people of the internet, and welcome back to Restaurant Productions. This is the review of The Eyes of Wakanda animated series, which was released a few days ago on Disney Plus. So, this release came out of nowhere. We just got two trailers for it. It was just dropped out of nowhere amidst, Fantastic Four, like after Fantastic Four. So, there was no like good marketing from Marvel. Like, we didn't see many posts, we didn't see many stories, we didn't see many trailers as we saw from other series, even from What If, another animated series that came from Marvel. There were many you know sneak peeks, weekly sneak peeks. There were like many trailers for it, but this series dropped in one go because there were only 4 episodes, and each of them were like 25 minutes, 30 minutes each. So the total runtime accounted to around 2 hours, almost 2 hours. And yeah, the stories were short, they were very fast paced. And before we jump right into the review, my new song Bate from my mixtape, The Post Nitya Corpus, is out now, so go check it out. And let's continue with the review. So, The Eyes of Wakanda is set in the past. It is before all the events of the Black Panther movie. It is before all the events of, the new Black Panther movie. It is set in the past. There are like 2 episodes which are set around 1200 BC, which is quite a long time ago. It is even before Christ, as of course, it is 1200 BC, which also confirms that Jesus Christ exists in the MCU, which is kind of, I know, funny. But so the first episode is about like this kind of a field agent who goes there to retrieve some artifacts that were stolen from Wakanda from like a previous war general that was of Wakanda, and he had gone rogue. So this female agent had to go out and subdue that threat which was outside of Wakanda. And I felt it was kind of a similar storyline to Black Panther. In fact, many of the episodes, I would say even episode 2, 3, even they were kind of feeling kind of similar to the plot of the first Black Panther movie. In fact, they also connect this series to the first Black Panther movie, and I'll come to that in a second. So, episode 2 was about like this another field agent in Greece, in the Greek area. He was a part of the Trojan War. His name was Memnon, and he was working with, the Greeks, and he was working with Achilles to kind of lay the attack on the city of Troy with the Trojan horse and things. So these two were kind of at the back end of history of the MCU. We can potentially say these were kind of the old, like very old at the beginning, kind of the stories kind of thing in the MCU. In fact, I kind of hope to see certain Eternals in this, because when you are setting a story which is kind of this old, in fact, like around 1200 BC, I was kind of hoping to see maybe Fastos, maybe like Athena, especially with the Greek episode. I was kind of hoping to see that, and I mean that would have just given more flavor and just more kind of connectedness to the MCU. And yes, this series is set in the MCU and of course in the past, and that is why I kind of hoped for Eternals to be in here, but they were not. And I mean, it would have been great if Eternals were there. And honestly, this focuses more on like this faction within the Wakandan, institution. This series focuses on a faction called as War Dogs, which is like this Wakandan kind of field agents that go out and carry out these missions spanning long years. And these missions have a history of so many years, like a long history. And this is what they show in here. And episode 3 was about like another field agent in China, or not in China, somewhere around China in Asia, and how like an Iron Fist was introduced, in this series. Like, so this, I mean, of course, confirms that there is an Iron Fist in the MCU, because Iron Fist is basically like this clan, this league of its own. They have this their own kind of center of martial arts. They have their own kind of mystical arts teaching going on around there. And so we also got our, I wouldn't say the first Iron Fist, because the Netflix era Daredevil shows and all those things are also canon now in the MCU. So of course we of course got Iron Fist in there, but of course this was a new Iron Fist, a very different Iron Fist, not a major Iron Fist which we might know. And again, it was like, okay, it was a good episode. Now I quite liked the second episode. The first episode and third episode were like, okay, kind of like, okay, that's, yeah, some things are happening. You're just going through the movie, or sorry, going through the series, and it was just good to look at. The animation is kind of okay. Sometimes the frames feel laggy, sometimes the frames feel like they're just cutting from this to this, and there is a frame missing in there between. You can like visually see that. I mean, of course, it was just a 4-part series and 25 minutes each, and they had to cramp in so much stories. It was, I mean, literally the pacing was this. And so of course the animation took a toll there, but the art style was also, it kind of reminded you of What If, because I mean, sure, it is in the MCU, so it will kind of remind you of What If, but it also had this watercolor texture to it, like this very watercolory thing, which kind of reminds you of the Spider-Gwen's universe from, of course, Spider-Verse. So it was kind of that watercolory texture that, you know, water paint has when you like put water in it. When there's paint, you just put water in it and it just spreads on its own. It had that kind of visuals to it, and I mean, of course, it was kind of good to see that choice. Then the fighting sequences, I would say, were also kind of laggy and campy, where it felt like, you know, like it felt animatronics but not fully animated. It felt kind of like it didn't feel fluid. The animation of fighting didn't feel fluid. It felt clanky. It felt like, you know, stop motion, like this. It didn't feel fully fluid. So I mean, of course, this show is kind of, you know, pivoted towards or projected towards kids, and you could see that because they don't show you someone like literally killing someone visually. It's most of it's just kind of interpretation, and you could see it as a very kid focused show. And the fourth episode, which connects this entire series to the MCU, is my personal favorite from this 4 episodes. I personally liked the last episode more than the previous 3, because of course it connected to the MCU, but it also gave a very solid story. And most of these stories were like in their own, like there was some interconnectedness here and there, but they were their own standalone stories. And in the end, so the last episode was like this future where like this horde has attacked the earth. The horde is like this beasts and insects from like at the edge of the universe, and they have come to attack earth. And what they have to do is, all the earthlings, all the humans have to save earth, but they are not united, especially Wakanda, because Wakanda hadn't opened their borders to the world, which is kind of opposite to what we see in Black Panther and in the first Black Panther movie and the second Black Panther movie. So this happened because the Wakandans in the past kind of took away the artifact, which was not supposed to be taken from a war place, like from this war-ridden country. So they didn't have to take an artifact from there, and that artifact was like this hammer or like this, you know, pickaxe or kind of thing, which Killmonger uses in the first Black Panther movie. And we see that like from this museum scene where there are like these Wakandan artifacts, and he takes that hammer, like that kind of sickle like thing from that museum, and that is what connects it to the MCU. I mean, you can watch it on your own to better understand it, but this is what kind of made it more appealing, that of course it connects to the MCU and what the future holds when like something that was supposed to be there is taken out of place. That kind of felt more rewarding and more kind of, you know, focusing our attention to be like, yeah, okay, this this is something good. This is something a nice storyline to hear or like to watch. So that was it. And honestly, it was a okay show. It wasn't like like a big, a good event, and that is why I think they released it for a formality. They just did it. They didn't like care much about it, and I think it's fine. Like you could just watch it for once. It's honestly just a one-time watch. There are 4 episodes, 25 minutes each. Watch them, and I kind of wanted them to expand on the things within Wakanda, whereas this series was like what happens outside of Wakanda most of the time. And I mean, I guess you can say eyes of Wakanda. I mean, these field agents operating outside of Wakanda, but I kind of wanted to explore and expand on Wakanda itself more, because I think there is a very rich hierarchy of events and kind of even people that you can follow in Wakanda. And so that kind of didn't sit or like fit quite well with me. But I think other than that, it's fine. And if there were more kind of inclusions of other MCU characters, that would have been great, especially in the past. Like they could have shown like some other avatar of Moon Knight, or like of Khonshu, who is the Moon Knight, some old avatar. There are many avatars of Khonshu, of like Moon Knight, so they could have shown that maybe. And of course they could have included simple, a very nice, very little bit of Eternals as well, because I think Eternals is like a very wasted opportunity when it comes to Marvel IP. I personally think that, because Eternals was a very great movie. I love that, but they have very like underused the characters so much, and the things that you could do with them in history, it's just amazing. So I know that was kind of a thing that I didn't quite like. And yep, that was it. It was again like it's become a ritual with Marvel, where you like kind of watch this, watch that. You kind of like one project, you kind of are like, okay, yeah, this is fine, nothing great. Then again, another project is like, okay, yeah, I mean, this is great. But again, the next project is like, this is kind of fine. um, I mean, why did they put this like in production at first? But I think it's okay in the end. Each and everything is their own thing. It's their own story. There are people behind it. Maybe they would explore some of these things in a future Wakandan project. I mean, they were working on many other Wakandan related or like Black Panther related projects. They were kind of working on like this Okoye series also, and I don't think it's currently in production. I think they have cancelled it. I may be wrong, but I think there was a Okoye series in production. But other than that, I think it's fine. And yep, that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next.